Well, howdy there folks, and welcome into today's video. Hope you guys are doing great as always out there. In this video here today, we're going to talk about selling Corsair Gaming CRSR stock. I want to share my full opinion on this subject and what I'm looking at in terms of when I'll sell this stock, why I'll sell this stock, things like that. I've done one of these videos in the past for Tattooed Chef, which is one of my big buys. I've been buying for the last several months. Corsair Gaming, same exact thing. I've been buying the stock as it's dipped. And I want to share my perspective on when I'm planning on selling this, because a lot of people say, hey, you talk a lot about, buying a stock and buying the dip and things like that. But what about selling? Like, when's the right time to sell? When are you thinking about selling these stocks? Is there a certain price? We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about price points that would make me sell in regards to Corsair Gaming and things like that. So yeah, this is a Corsair dedicated video on when I'm planning on selling stock, why I would sell a stock and things like that. All I ask in return is that you guys smash that thumbs up button. That's literally it. I appreciate you guys being here. As always, it means a lot to me. And also, just so you know, we got a free 7-day trial going on for the private stock group right now. My private stock group, the private Discord chat, the whole thing. Free 7-day trial. If you're interested in that, check out pinned comment down there and go ahead and enjoy that. Alrighty, guys. So let's talk about this for a moment. Corsair Gaming. So if we're looking at this page here, that's my biggest, the big dog position there. In terms of the account I have the most shares in, my main private account, I have, almost 20,000 shares in that particular account. Well over $500,000. It's a position that's gone down for us, 14%. Now, I don't mind it if a position goes down for me, to be quite honest. I actually usually enjoy that, as weird and sadistic as that sounds. The reason is, like, if a stock goes down, I get to buy more and more shares of it. What I usually don't like is if there's a stock I really like a lot, and as soon as I buy my first, amount of shares, let's say I bought 100 shares or 1,000 shares or whatever, right? The stock just shoots up to the moon. It's cool. I got to make money right away. Cool, but I didn't really get to build out a big position. With Corsair Gaming, I've been able to build out a very, very large position in this company, and I'm not done buying Corsair Gaming. I could easily buy some more shares of the stock over the next, let's call it 3 months or so. Maybe even over the next 6 months, but specifically over the next 3 months. As long as the stock's in the 20s specifically, I'm very, very interested buyer. So I'm not done buying this one, right? Now, if we're going to speak about selling a stock, the way I think about it, okay, one is I got to feel like I'm getting a fair price for whatever I'm selling. It could be any stock, it could be any asset in general. I got to feel like I'm getting a fair price. But even more important than getting a good price on something, to me, this is more important, is that essentially I have somewhere better to put the money, right? If I feel like I have the best return on investment opportunity in the world, like, I need to take advantage of that. And even if I have to sell something that's maybe not the best price, but there's just this way bigger opportunity, I've got to take that for myself, right? And so that's the way I think whenever I think about selling any asset, a stock or anything for that matter, right? Now, if we think about Corsair Gaming, what got me in the stock in the first place, right? Interesting valuation, an interesting story around the stock, around the gaming opportunity and how big the gaming industry is going to get over the next, let's say, decade, how big the streaming category is going to get over the next decade when it comes to streaming equipment. Like, streaming is something that's just taken off in a massive way over the past 5 years specifically, right? And so with the Elgato brand that Corsair owns, the opportunity for that company, they just barely launched in the past 3-6 months. They just finally launched a webcam. Like, think about the opportunity for Elgato over the next 5+ years, or if not the next 10 years, when it comes to this streaming equipment, how many sales they can bring to the table, right? And then think about if they keep compounding these numbers and growing these numbers, right, on how many different products they can get into. This, just since I've been in the stock over the past 6 to 9 months, I've seen them launch so many new products in relation to the gaming sector or the streaming sector. It's been absolutely amazing to witness. The innovation at this company is off the charts, right? And so those were really the things that got me into this stock, right? The valuation and the story. Now, the story in regards to Corsair Gaming has gotten even more compelling for me because I've seen the rate of innovation at this company over the last 6 months, specifically how many new products they're coming out with. So the story's gotten more compelling to me. And on top of that, the valuation has gotten more compelling to me. The stock, I feel, is a better deal, a much better deal than when I got involved with it, right? Think about how many times I've averaged down these shares, and still we're down 14% on this. So everything's gotten better, and the valuation's gotten lower. The company's made more money, they've had way more cash flows coming in, profits, and the valuation's come down. And I'm more excited about the long-term opportunity in this company over the next 5-10 years than I was previously. So when you compound all those things, it creates this tremendous opportunity, right? And I kind of have a perfect scenario going for me in which there's a big fund that people don't know how many shares they want to sell out of in regards to Corsair Gaming. And it's putting the short-term selling pressure and the short-term worries around Corsair's stock price, right? Now, somebody like myself, as a long-term investor, I don't care about that. I care about where Corsair Gaming is at in 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now. Something I am extremely confident in is this fund that holds a ton of shares. They're not even going to be on the radar in terms of like, oh, they're selling out all their shares. Like that story is going to be so far in the past. Like that's going to play out for the remainder of this year and maybe into 22. And then that's going to move on to be, a back page story, right? For right now, it matters a lot for the stock price. But in 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, my personal opinion is not going to matter at all. Literally at all. Like Corsair is going to run its own race. This is also a company that's went public in the past year, right? And so when I think about this stock, right, you're looking at the growth this year, roughly 20%, but it's an interesting story because you look at the most recent quarter, the December quarter, they're expecting potentially, analysts are expecting, 9 analysts that cover the stock, a potential downtick in revenue, right? So the expectations are not big for this company as far as the numbers go. You look at the revenue number, 5% there, not a large number at all for this company, right? And so when I look at Corsair Gaming, look at the stock chart on this one, right? I mean, that is quite a downtrend, right? I mean, that's just vicious. The stock is trading at a 15 forward P roughly. Now, my personal opinion around Corsair Gaming, I think this stock should be valued, personally, I think this stock should be valued at a 25 to a 35 forward P. 25 being on the lower end, 35 being on the higher end. Compared to right now, it's valued at about a 15 forward P. Why do I believe that? Well, first off, it's a hardware company, so it deserves a lower valuation than if it was a software company, right? But when we think about the industries and we think about the TAM this company's going after that they're capturing, and when we think about the brands they own and how much people love those brands, the goodwill of those brands, Corsair and Elgato specifically, right? They also own Scuff Gaming, which is a major player in the custom controller business for Xbox, PS, PlayStation, and consoles like that, right? When I think about those brands, how impactful those brands are, how much people love those brands in the long-term TAM in the gaming sector, right? And the streaming sector. And the thing is, people aren't even, a lot of investors aren't even factoring in, like, what happens if this company starts to build out a more software or subscription-based revenue, right? Which is definitely in the realm of possibility over the next 3-5 years, because that's kind of the holy grail here. But not even considering that, I still feel like this company deserves a 25 to a 35 P today, which means this stock price, in my personal opinion, should be 70% to potentially over 100% higher today than it is valued today, right? Now, in the short term, we can't dictate stock prices and where stock prices are. If you have a big fund that's potentially selling out shares and putting crazy selling pressure, and you have those worries from short-term folks that are thinking, and you have a lot of short seller tax and those sorts of things, that makes you into a situation in the short term. You're in tough sledding, right, as far as your stock price goes. But all that stuff alleviates over the long term. That immense amount of selling pressure alleviates. The short-term thought around your company. It's a new company in the public markets. Corsair have been public in the past year or so, right? Let's see what they got. Let's see how they produce over the next year or so, right? As being their first full year as being a public company. A lot of folks are thinking like that, especially on Wall Street. And a lot of folks still have to get caught up on the Corsair Gaming. Like, think about how many stocks there are in the stock market. Think about how many stocks went public in 2020, right? And in the beginning part of 2021. And so if you're a fund manager, you're still trying to get caught up on all these stocks. And so of course, Corsair Gaming, it might not even come across your desk yet. And you got to get caught up here and realize, oh man, this opportunity for a company like Corsair Gaming is absolutely massive. But you look at this here, right? I mean, the PE's at 16, the forward PE's at 15, the price to sales ratio, this is a current price to sales ratio, is at 1.2, market cap at 2.4 billion. I think that market cap should be at 4 billion to roughly $5 billion right now, in my personal opinion. That's today, right? So I can't even consider selling Corsair unless this stock was at least $45 a share. And that's just for me to consider selling the stock, right? At least 45. But here's the thing. That's where I believe that the company should be valued today, right? Now, let's say Corsair continues to build out their revenues and net income and EPS over the next 3 or 5 years, right? And let's say Corsair gets more software-related revenues or more subscription-based revenues, which I think is definitely a possibility for Corsair. I've watched the CEO talk many times. It seems like they want to go down that route over the coming years and become more than just a hardware company. Although the hardware business is great, they put up amazing numbers. Like the company is expected to do $2.15 billion next year, and almost all that's from hardware revenue, right? That's awesome. And $1.91 is expected of EPS. That's phenomenal. But the fact is, if this company can build out software revenue and recurring revenue streams, the company immediately overnight gets crazy bigger valuations, right? And so when I think about Corsair Gaming, I think, yeah, this stock would have to be $45 or higher today for me to even consider selling. But here's the thing, in 5 years from now, or let's say even in 3 years from now, 45 will likely not even be a consideration. It will likely, I'll view 45 in 3 years from now likely as 26, where I'm like, I can't even consider that price, because at that time, hopefully the company should be somewhere where it would make sense for the company to be valued at $60 plus, right? And so 45 would be like a joke price to me, kind of similar to, I view 26 today. If I sell at 26, I view that as like a joke price, right? I'm not even going to consider that price. Now, back to the big photo here. There's two things that Wall Street is also getting wrong, in my opinion, in the short term. The first one is they're looking at this company and they're saying, this company, Corsair Gaming, we're not sure how much of this revenue is sustainable, because what they've seen is they've seen all the at-home stocks, the businesses flourish, right? And so they're kind of viewing Corsair, it's went public in the past year or so. They're looking at Corsair and they're saying to themselves, they're like, well, yeah, their business went crazy over the last 2 years, but a lot of that was because of everybody being at home. And so if everybody was at home, they're buying a lot of gaming equipment because there was nothing to do. You couldn't go out, so they're buying a lot of gaming equipment, a lot of streaming equipment, okay? Now, that's true in one sense. The other sense is Corsair, imagine how much more well-known Corsair's brand is now versus where it was at 2 years ago, and Elgato's brand. The second thing to consider, that just boosted up the market long-term for a company like Corsair in a massive way. And if you're talking about brand new people into the gaming space, that's actually not Corsair's main segment of customers. Actually, a lot of other brands get a lot of that business. So if you're talking about brand new people, Corsair actually doesn't benefit nearly as much from that. So their numbers were not pushed up nearly as much as some other companies that benefit from that person that's never been into gaming, but it was forced to be home during Roni Ronin. So they're like, let me take up gaming. Corsair doesn't benefit from that. Corsair benefits a lot from people that are getting more serious into essentially streaming, gaming, those sorts of things. Those folks do more research, they come across Corsair products, and they end up buying. The initial people that are trying to buy a $10 headset, right, for gaming, or a $30 headset, that's not Corsair's business. Corsair's trying to sell the product that for somebody that's super serious, that's maybe a $120 headset, $150 headset, $200 headset. That is what Corsair's trying to do, right? Corsair's not trying to sell the cheapest mouse out there, which is a lot of people that are just getting into gaming are looking for the cheapest things possible, because they're not even sure if they're going to do this, right? The Corsair is trying to sell the gaming mouse that's $100, right? $150 for somebody that's already dedicated toward gaming and is going to like use that. So I think this notion that Corsair's benefit in some massive way from just a bunch of new people coming in and they're just buying all Corsair products, that's not true at all. What this does is this creates a way bigger long-term TAM for Corsair Gaming. Because let's say, let's just say hypothetical, there's 10 million new gamers that came onto the market because of Rona, right? And let's say they bought some sort of gaming equipment. Most of those folks are not going to buy from Corsair Gaming. Now, let's say only 50% of those people stay around. So let's say 5 million out of that 10 million, right? Well, now you got an extra 5 million people that wouldn't have even considered gaming, but basically did consider it because of Rona shutdowns, right? And so now they're looking at Corsair Gaming and they're saying, wow, this is a company I want to continue to buy their products, right? And so imagine where these revenues are going to be at in 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, as the company continues to innovate, come out with new products. And on top of that, you have more and more folks that are taking gaming and streaming more serious than ever before. Imagine, that's just the gaming side. Imagine the streaming side. How many folks have taken streaming more serious? Twitch, streaming on YouTube or other platforms, right? They never considered it. And now are looking at Elgato's brand as just being one of the biggest players in the hardware space for streaming. Like they're one of the biggest players, if not the premier player there, right? And so imagine that. Now there's another thing that Wall Street's looking at short term where I think they're making a big mistake. They're looking at this company and they're viewing it from the perspective of they have a lot of short-term headwinds around cost, container costs, transportation costs of the products. That eats into the profitability of the business short term. Once again, this is a short-term effect. Those container costs that maybe have doubled or tripled or quadrupled over the past year or two, that's not sustainable. That's a commoditized business. That is not sustainable. That will decrease. Corsair will likely increase the price of their products, right? And so we'll end up in a situation where Corsair is commanding more money for their products. The shipping costs, the container rates, transportation costs, anything like that is going to decrease. And all of a sudden, Corsair is going to have a new level of profitability and gross margin that will start to show up in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now that won't have been there before. And folks will start looking in from the Wall Street perspective and be like, wow, Corsair's gross margins are out of this world. That's what ends up happening, okay? So for me, when it comes to Corsair Gaming, the stock price would need to be exponentially higher than here. If Corsair is trading at $65 a share today, I would probably sell my entire position in this stock, right? But it's not. It's at $26 today. $65, $62, I'm probably cashing out of this one because it will have well over doubled. Then you put it at a forward P of, let's say 35, 40. Then I'm not as interested. It's just not a compelling case for me. But at 26, I'm not even going to consider that, right? Now, longer term, I can see myself likely getting out of the stock anywhere between $55 and potentially $75 a share. Now, it might take quite a while for Corsair Gaming to get there. Now, the thing that could happen in between there is what happens if there's some big game changers in the business model? Like what happens if they build out a successful recurring revenue stream business model for themselves? What happens if they get more into the software space? Like it's not out of the realm of possibility for Corsair to do that over the next 24 or 36 months. That's definitely in the realm of possibility. That would change the game for the company, and that would make me even at $55 to $75 say, I don't want to sell this. But assuming this just stays a hardware-related company, and that's all they do, and they continue to grow their business, but it's just hardware products, 55 to 75 is where I would consider starting to sell this stock. And likely what I would do with Corsair Gaming, I wouldn't sell it all at once, right? Big positions I build out, when I do sell them, I like to sell them in chunks as they go up. Now, here's the other factor. I would have to feel at that same time that there's a much better opportunity for me in the market. There's somewhere I could put the money that would be, much better spent, right? That let's say I was selling Corsair at $60 a share. It would have to be another stock that I'm looking at buying, right? Then I'm like, this stock is a way better deal than Corsair. This stock's going to go up exponentially more than Corsair over the coming years, and it has less risk, right? But when I look at Corsair, the risk reward in the 20s is tremendous, in my opinion, over the next 3, 5, 7 years. Short term, all this junk that is on the stock short term is all going to go away. The worries about Rona, how much did it boost the business? That's not even going to be an issue in 3 months, in 3 quarters from now, right? Short-term container cost, freight cost, transportation costs. In my opinion, 2-3 quarters from now, that's not even going to be a major subject. It's going to go from likely a headwind to a tailwind for the company behind it, right? The fund selling out, anywhere between 3 quarters and 5 quarters from now, that won't really be a story, in my opinion, anymore. For right now, all those things are all massive issues for the company, and all those things, in my opinion, will not be seen within a year from now, right? They'll all go to the back burner. There'll all be things of the past, and then it will be up and up for Corsair, right? There'll always be something that comes out of nowhere that hurts, the business model or is a perceived threat to the business model. But at the end of the day, like, Corsair's opportunity is massive and just continues to grow bigger. And so, yeah, those are the prices I would consider selling Corsair. That's exactly how I think about this stock in relation to selling Corsair Gaming. Hope you guys really enjoyed this. Hope you got a lot of value out of it, regardless if you own the stock or not. Hope you enjoyed just kind of getting into my mind and thinking how I think about selling a stock like this. All I ask in return is that you smash that thumbs up button if you didn't already. Also, just so you guys know, we got a free 7-day trial for the private stock group, the private Discord chat, the course curriculums, everything like that going on literally right now. If you want to go ahead and book a call, and we'll onboard you onto the private stock group for a 7-day free trial, go ahead and check out the pinned comment down there. Much love as always, guys, and have a great day. Download Hungry Bowl, iOS and Android now.